Cha-cha-cha. I heard it. One of you said it. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I wonder if you will join me in our call to worship. People of God, look about creation and see the faces of those we know and love, neighbors and friends, brothers and sisters, familiarity and diversity, a communion of kindred hearts.
People of God, look around and see the faces of those we hardly know, strangers, sojourners, forgotten friends, those who need an outstretched hand.
People of God, look about and see all of the images and the imprints of God assembled here today in me and you and each of us everywhere. God's Spirit shining for all to see.
People of God, let us give thanks for this time together. Let us remember that together we are all one world in wonderful diversity, and that makes the world a more beautiful place.
Oh, that was it? Are we sure that was it? That was really it. I thought I had another frame on that one. What beautiful words to start our Sunday with, huh? Now we need to sing a beautiful hymn. Will you rise up in body or spirit with me and let's join our voices in I've Got Peace Like a River. Please be seated, my faithful folks. We must be doing something here because I'm seeing cars just flying on down that driveway as I'm singing that hymn. Wow, we must be the place to be, huh? We leave the windows open. You want to hear what we're doing in here? That's great. Good morning, all. Good morning to all of you in this sacred space and to all of you online. We're delighted that you have joined us, especially if you're visiting with us, whether in person or online. We are so happy to have you here. If you are visiting with us, sign our friendship book, which is on the back table, the table in the gathering space, so we can keep you apprised of the many happenings we have happening here. It's a tongue twister. If you're online with us, just go ahead and send a note to office@faithucc.org, and we will get you on that same newsletter list and keep you apprised of the many happenings here. Whew. Is it a special day today? Is there something going on? There's an energy in the air today. Is it like Super Bowl Sunday? Is that what we're saying? Casey just told me we're not Puppy Bowl Day. Yes. Casey just told me that they're cracking down on anyone that says Super Bowl. You know, like we're infringing on their copyright violations. Uh-oh, what was that? They're already calling in? So we're not going to say... The lawyers are already foaming. So we're not going to say Super Bowl today, NFL. We won't dare say Super Bowl. We won't mention the word Super Bowl again in the service. Super Bowl. We all say it with me, Super Bowl. And that's going over the internet. NFL, we're just kidding. Really, we just don't get us Super Bowl Sunday. It is more than Super Bowl Sunday. Today is another day where we are celebrating Black history, and that's way more important than any Super Bowl could ever be. Way more important. I'm going to introduce you today to Howard Thurman. I can't wait for you to meet this man. If you've never heard of Howard Thurman, one, I don't know how that's possible, but two, you're going to learn about him today. So I'm excited to share that. I'm also excited to say Lent is coming up. Woo! Does that get you excited? Almost like saying Super Bowl, you know, it gets you just jazzed and pumped. And Lent is coming up a couple weeks away. And that, you know what that means? This will get you excited. We're going to have Mardi Gras. Mardi Gras is coming back. We're going to get outside and we're going to have some fun. And the theme this year, we're not going to grill this year. We're going to try something new. And this is where we need your help. We're going to have, what better to kick off Mardi Gras and the season of Lent than Sloppy Joes. So that is going to be our theme for the year. Here's what we need. Pam?
We're also going to have pulled pork.
Oh, we're also, news to me, but music to my ears. So pulled pork, how many people do we need to bring Sloppy Joe? We're trying to find some volunteers to bring big crock pots. Not little crock pots like for cheese dip or something, but we're talking big crock pots, you know, the 10-galloners.
We said we need at least
8? Whew, you're all going to be hungry. We're going to put a sign-up sheet out there. There already is one out there, and I'd love it if you. Who doesn't like to whip up a good batch of Sloppy Joes, right? Right. So we already got one. SB's already in for. Oh, you're not. Oh, you're kind of committed now, Fran. Did we all see a hand go up? I did. I saw. Yes, I'm sorry, Fran. You're Sloppy Joes. Just go get Manwich or something, you know, and put it in a thing. There's a board already going in the back. It'll be March 27th, following the service. So please sign up to bring something, whether it be Sloppy Joes. Let's see that Sloppy Joe board filled today. There's desserts. We need some leadership on this. So check that board out. You're also good about filling in stuff on boards. If you're online with us, you'd like to contribute something, just chime into Facebook or send me a note on email, and we'll find a way to get you on that board as well. So Mardi Gras, the 27th. And I think to help cover costs, because there will be some costs for us, we always ask for like a $5 free love donation for that. So maybe we'll put a sign-up sheet out for that. But all are welcome, so don't worry about it. But let's just have a good time. We need these kind of celebrations again, don't we? We really, really do. We really, really do. Okay, so watch for more information on Lent to come as well. We have a special announcement today from Julie and Lori.
We have homework, yeah.
I didn't bring mine up. I'm a rebel, I didn't bring mine up.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So throughout my working years, I have been heard to say, in case I get hit by a bus, here's where that project is. In case I get hit by a bus, the folder you need is on my desk. How many of you have thought that, over the years? I need to remember in case I get hit by a bus. Lo and behold, there is a book called In Case You Get Hit by a Bus. So, of course, I had to pick it up and look through it, and really got me thinking about all the things I need to, cross the T's, dot the I's to get my stuff in order. The last time I saw my sister, we talked about power of attorney, our wills, safe deposit boxes, signatures. Now that I'm in my mid-60s, I am thinking, thinking more and more about how to get my own stuff in order. So.
And over my last 4 years, I've experienced having to deal with some of this myself. It's almost a year now that I met Marge for the first time, talking about joining the church and sitting outside in the garden. And she asked me, tell me a little bit about yourself. So I told her that I had recently lost 4 people in my life and had to deal with the estates. And how Lori has said to me, I hate the fact that you know all of this stuff, but thank goodness you do, because you've helped me with this, or you were able to answer this question for someone else. So Marge says, maybe we should have a class. And so, of course, doing what Marge does best, she put together a team and found other people in our congregation that have experience from one aspect or another. And we felt that this would be something that would be really, really helpful to get everyone thinking, to get through some of the tough parts. So Lori created this slide that you see. So we've been calling it Tending to Tomorrow. There'll be 3 weekend sessions on Saturdays, an hour and a half long. We have some guest speakers, some famous ones. Some of them you already know. You don't even know you know that all the things that they know. And so the different topics, the conversation, again, a book, I didn't bring it, I don't have the copy, but there is a book called The Conversation that I happened to find in the library right when I needed it, and it helped me through 3 very difficult conversations. So we hope that everybody can think about it. It's a tough thing to think about, but the more you think about it and talk about it, the easier it gets.
My dad sat me down when I was probably 12 or 13 years old and said, okay, in case, and had it printed up. Here's where all the bank accounts are. Here are the people. Here are the phone numbers. Here are where the keys are. And he would update that every couple of years and sit down and talk to me about it. So when the time came, it was hard, but it was easy because I didn't have to go, and I could help my mom, through the difficult times. So it's just something, again, the conversation to get it started is kind of hard. Julie and I have a sign-up sheet. If you are interested, we will be back here in this corner after the service. And if you would like to sign up, you get, this is one of the things we learned, a red notebook, because you can tell people, just look for the red notebook in my house. It'll tell you everything you need to know. So we'll be going through all of this. We have lots of handouts, lots of things for you, and again, great speakers. So.
And I did want to say, like we talked about a couple of books, we didn't want to be like someone else we all know who every week tells you some books that you should buy and read. We thought that this way you could get it in the class. So see us after service.
So anyway, we're happy to answer questions and hope you'll join us. Thank you.
Who is that person that tells you to buy all these books? I sure would like to find them. Thank you. It's really, really important. Thank you, Marge, for all of you that have been involved in this, all your hard work in planning this, and something we don't always want to think about, but when the time comes, it can sure make things easier on our loved ones. So that's really a scriptural message to love your neighbor, your family neighbor as yourself, to make it easier on them through a time of grief. So thank you for that. And one quick announcement as well. We need folks for HEP. Dan is in the middle of the congregation over here. There's a sign-up sheet in the carousel. So if you would like to help with HEP, or you just want to learn what that means, what that entails, talk to Dan. He'll be happy to tell you all the stories about it. But please do sign up for HEP. And if you haven't done it before, it's a great experience. So please consider having it. Speaking of legacy planning, we have a couple memorial services coming up. Today we have one for Helen Talenko, who I'm pretty sure died last Sunday as we had dedicated the final benediction song to her. I am pretty sure she passed away during that time, or died during that time, as far as I can put the timing together. So, but that's something. It really is. So we'll miss Helen, and so we're going to celebrate her today at 12:30, and then next Sunday we're going to celebrate the life of Jim McIntosh. Robbie's in the sanctuary with us today. Robbie, our hearts go out to you in the loss of Jim. What a great, just gentle man. He will truly be missed, and we will celebrate him next Sunday at 2 p.m. Have quite a few other pastoral care concerns. Please hold Rosemary's son Rob in heart and prayer. He is recovering from prostate cancer surgery at home in Colorado. And Rosemary, I know you're on with us right now. We hold you in our hearts and prayers as well. Continue to hold Barb Campbell in your hearts and prayers. She's just still not coming back from COVID. Really just took the wind out of her sails, and she's having a hard time regaining her strength. Spending a lot more time in bed these days, and she is still in rehab. So hold Barb in your hearts and prayers. Hold Jim Peterson in your hearts and prayers. Jim fell last week. His knee gave out, and he hit the door, and they brought him to the hospital. He's okay, but he's fallen a few more times, and they think they might have to do knee surgery on Jim Peterson. So hold him in your hearts and prayers. Hold Tom Reichenello's mom, Marie, in your heart and prayer. She is in the hospital currently with pneumonia and a UTI. Tom, we think about your mom and your sweet mom, and give her our best, okay, when you talk to her today. And finally, I had Jenny, you saw a note on our Facebook page that Luke Stout had put out. Janet Stout, new member here, is in the hospital, Morton Plant, with a brain bleed, and she's in very serious condition. I called Luke. I have not heard back. Luke, you may be on with us, and if you are on Facebook, maybe you can let us know how she's doing during the service. But otherwise, hold Janet Stout in your heart and prayers in what is maybe a really, really serious time. So, we have a lot of heaviness going on. Any other concerns anyone wants to lift up? How about some joys? We got some joys. Julie Del Giorno's brother, Mark, is home from the hospital. He's been home now for a couple weeks. After a 3-week stay, he's doing much better, and he's in rehab at home. So that is a joy. Celebrate that this day. I always love to hear good news like that of healing and mending. So that's good. It's good news. And Penny Berryman, who's online with us, Jenny's sister here, graduated with her degree in accounting, right, this week? So that is exciting. Congratulations, Penny. We celebrate with you this day. And I've got a joy. We have another?
Oh, you may be going to do it.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Carl's going to share the same thing. I'm sharing a personal joy from Espy and I that our daughter Chloe scored the highest rating of superior in the Pinellas County District Solo Ensemble, and Carolyn was there to accompany her and witness the whole thing. And so, a selfish joy. And I raised that because I think she's going to do that solo next week. Is the plan. So right here in this space. She was really nervous, although she'll say to me, no, I was not nervous. And I'm like, you were so nervous. And the judge in the end, who seemed to me when I got there like just a stiff guy. I'm like, oh, God. Didn't crack a smile, did nothing, just very formal. And he applauded, and he said, wow, you're only a 9th grader. So that was pretty cool to hear. She plays the trombone for anyone that didn't pick that up. So any other joys you want to lift up this day? Joys in this congregation? We've already mentioned it's the Super Bowl, right? We've mentioned that. I don't know if that's a joy or a concern, depending on where you're from. But if not, let's journey ever deeper into this service together. I invite you just to take a couple of deep centering breaths in this time. Always remember our mantra from Thich Nhat Hanh. When you breathe in, say, present moment. When you breathe out, say, beautiful moment. Present moment, beautiful moment. And we have a centering video based on the words now of Howard Thurman. I want to share with you from the work of the people. I hope you'll enjoy Howard's words.
Lord, Lord, open unto me. Open unto me light for my darkness. Open unto me courage for my fear. Open unto me hope for my despair. Open unto me peace for my turmoil. Open unto me joy for my sorrow. Open unto me strength for my weakness. Open unto me wisdom for my confusion. Open unto me forgiveness for my sins. Open unto me tenderness for my toughness. Open unto me love for my hates. Open unto me thyself for myself. Lord, Lord, open unto me.
The gospel reading this morning comes from Luke chapter 4, verses 14 through 21. Jesus returned to Galilee, powerful in the Spirit. News that he was back spread through the countryside. He taught in their meeting places to everyone's acclaim and pleasure. He came to Nazareth, where he had been raised. As he always did on the Sabbath, he went to the meeting place. When he stood up to read, he was handed the scroll of the prophet Isaiah. Unrolling the scroll, he found the place where it was written, "God's Spirit is on me. He's chosen me to preach the message of good news to the poor, send me to announce pardon to prisoners and recovery of sight to the blind, to set the burdened and battered free, to announce, this is God's time to shine." He rolled up the scroll, handed it back to the assistant, and sat down. Every eye in the place was on him, intent. Then he started in. You've just heard Scripture make history. It came true just now in this place.
That was from the Message translation, which I just love. It's funny, as we're hearing a reading from Luke, I got a text on my wrist from Luke, Janet Stout's son, and she's been moved to a normal room out of the ICU. Her speech is returning a little better, and she's not as foggy as she was before. So good news from Luke while we were listening to Luke. Never know what's going to happen here on a Sunday morning, right? So don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Because what the world needs is more people who have come alive, said Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman, pastor, prophet, civil rights leader, and inspirer, mystic, and most of all, my favorite, heretic to many. I love a good heretic. Thank God we don't burn people at the stake anymore, I'm saying. I'm guessing many of you have never heard of this man, Howard Thurman. I know you have sung his words, though. They appear every single year after Christmas, and we sing them here when we sing, I Am the Light of the World. You don't know that song? We hear the words, when the song of the angels is stilled, when the star in the sky is gone, when the kings and princes are home, when the shepherds are back with their flocks, that's when the work of Christmas begins. To find the lost, to heal the broken, to feed the hungry, to release the prisoner, to rebuild the nations, to bring peace among people, and to make music in the heart. I am the light of the world. You people, come and follow me. I love that song, and those are his words. Now, I've been wanting to do a sermon on Howard Thurman for a while now, and Black History Month seems to be the perfect time for it, though I will contend his name and his presence should be invoked every month, because even though so many don't know him by name, he has been instrumental in shaping our nation and our world to this very day. Still going on today. As someone recently said in a sermon honoring Thurman, quote, he was 100 years ahead of his time 50 years ago, so he is still 50 years ahead of you and me today. And the more and more I've dug into Thurman's story, a story that is often overshadowed by better well-known contemporaries that he inspired, like Martin Luther King Jr., or Jesse Jackson, or John Lewis, well, I'm finding those words that he is still 50 years ahead of us today, especially in the religious and spiritual sense, to be so true. So it is Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman's story I want to share with you today, because with all that I have learned about him in these past 2 weeks, everyone needs to know this man's name. First, a little biographical background on Howard Thurman. Thurman was born right here in Florida, Daytona, Florida, in 1899, into a very poor but deeply loving family. His grandmother, who would be a very big influence in his life and in his developing thought, had been enslaved on a plantation in Madison County, Florida, up near Tallahassee. She taught Howard many things and instilled her deep Christian faith in him. She taught him about suffering, about how they leaned on their faith in those times to get through the hardest of times. And she taught him about the dignity and the worth of every single person, of each person, especially those who were oppressed, or as he will so often go on to call it, disinherited. He said of his grandmother, "I learned more about the genius of the religion of Jesus from my grandmother than from all the men who taught me all the Greek and all the rest of it." She taught him about love and dignity and worth and overcoming great pain. And she planted the early seeds that Jesus, like his grandmother, or like black folks living amidst the vicious racism, lynchings, and segregation, and denied rights of the times that he witnessed, he learned that Jesus was very much the same. He was very much the same, a disinherited man living under oppressive conditions with his back against the wall. That notion of back against the wall will frame all of his thinking as he grew to become a champion for all people whose backs were against the wall. But more on that in a bit. Back to Thurman's journey. He was nurtured in this environment, and he was able to go to school and get an education, something that many black folks didn't have the opportunity to do, in the South especially. The problem was, and so he went to 8th grade, but the problem was in Daytona, as unreal as this sounds to us today, there were no black high schools, no high schools for black kids. None. I think there were only 3 in the state. So at 14 years old, Thurman left home and headed north 100 miles to Jacksonville to go to high school. Imagine having to do that. And it almost didn't happen, though. First, Thurman tells the story later in life. He had enough money for the train fare, but was told just before he was going to board the train that he needed a little more money to check his trunk, which all of his belongings, you know what he tells us in his autobiography, he was devastated, believing his dream was gone. He fell down on the platform crying. And a stranger walked by and saw him crying and asked what was wrong. And Thurman told him the problem, and this anonymous man went ahead and paid the extra fare. Though he never knew who the man was, Thurman later dedicated his autobiography to him. That's how important that moment was. He dedicated it to the man on the platform who restored his broken dreams. I include that note just as a reminder that you never know, my friends, you never know when one simple gesture can change someone's life. And it did for Thurman. He never forgot it, and he used that to change the world. So off Thurman goes. He goes through high school, where he graduates with high honors, even paying his own way through high school, which is weird. You got to pay for high school, but a long time ago, working as a janitor. And then he graduates and he attends college at Morehouse College, and graduates as valedictorian of his class. Then he rolls and graduates from Colgate Rochester Divinity School in New York. There, shout out back there. You're in good company. And he goes on to, and then he goes into a pastor. He's ordained, and he becomes a minister in Ohio. Oberlin, Ohio, anybody? Oh, a couple of hands are going up. And he's a pastor there from 1926 to 1928. And then he returns to Atlanta, and he teaches at both Morehouse and Spelman College. And then he's a professor of theology. And then in 1932, Howard Thurman accepts a prestigious offer to become professor of theology and dean of the Rankin Chapel at Howard University, where he would remain until 1944. And then, I'll get to this later, and then he went on, he left there to go found one of the most amazing places I've discovered in recent years. But hang on to that. That's kind of a cliffhanger, what do you call it? Just hang on to that for a bit. So I was in those years at Howard, teaching theology and preaching regularly at the Rankin Chapel, that Howard Thurman honed his vision of Jesus and really of Christianity. He began dreaming of civil rights for all people and started to develop his vision of a world that breaks down religious barriers and really all barriers that divide people along the lines of race and class and gender and religion. In fact, in 1935 and 1936, Howard Thurman, with his dynamic wife, Sue Bailey, led a 6-month delegation of African Americans to India. Keep in mind, this is the 1930s. And he went there to meet with, his delegation went to meet with leaders from several different regions, and they were invited to meet and spend time in conversation with none other than Gandhi. And he becomes the first African American pastor to ever meet Gandhi. And Gandhi and Thurman quickly developed a warm relationship, and one of the things that Thurman spent a great deal of time on with Gandhi in conversation was his notion of nonviolence and its role in changing the world through peaceful means, and how it has a flip side, which is civil disobedience as well. It's not just nonviolence, it's nonviolence with civil disobedience. And he's reported to have said, when Thurman asked him what message he can bring back to the people of the United States, Gandhi said that one of his regrets was that he had not carried the message of nonviolence as a visible practice to the world, and that, quote, "It may be through the Negroes that the unadulterated message of nonviolence will be delivered to the world." It's an end quote from Gandhi. And sure enough, it was. For several years later, when Thurman became the first ever African-American dean of a predominantly white college at Boston University and the dean of March Chapel, he was an amazing guy, wasn't he? He already is. I haven't gotten to the other stuff. Well, there would happen to be a young man studying for his doctorate at Boston University. Do you know what his name was? Martin Luther King Jr. In an excellent CNN documentary that I just watched called Backs Against the Wall, the Howard Thurman Story. You can find that on YouTube and watch it for free. It's fantastic. I highly recommend it. In that documentary, stories are told often how King would come to hear Thurman preach. He would take copious notes, and that Thurman over time became a father and a mentor to King. And there's stories about how King would stop by Thurman's house on Sunday afternoons for another really important ritual, watching Jackie Robinson play baseball on TV. Imagine being in that living room with Martin Luther King Jr. and Howard Thurman watching Jackie Robinson on TV. Whoa, there's a moment to go back to if we could time travel. These two were close, and King absorbed the teachings of nonviolence and civil disobedience that Thurman had brought back from his time with Gandhi, and he absorbed Thurman's vision of who Jesus was. According to this documentary, quote, King quickly got a chance to apply the lessons he learned from hearing Thurman preach. 6 months after earning his doctorate, he led his first nonviolent mass protest in Montgomery, Alabama. Thurman's concepts about nonviolence and Jesus are peppered through many of King's writings. Though Thurman never played a major role in the activism, he stayed kind of in the background of the civil rights movement. He was really seen more as the elder mentor of the entire movement, for it was his vision, learned from Gandhi, that guided it and gave the strength for folks like King or John Lewis and so many others to make civil rights a reality through nonviolence. And you know what? Some criticized Thurman for this, and they still do today. And you'll hear in the documentary, should you watch it, which I hope you do, one person quipped, quote, "Many expected Thurman to be a Moses, but instead they got a mystic," end quote. Many expected Thurman to be a Moses, but instead they got a mystic. So the story of civil rights cannot be told or understood fully without the story of Howard Thurman, but still today many, sadly, have no idea who this man was. Now, going back to India, when he traveled there, I want to share a story that Thurman recounts in his book, fantastic book that you should go buy, Jesus and the Disinherited. It's a conversation that he had in India with a Hindu legal scholar at a conference they were attending. It's a bit honest and it's maybe a bit rough, but my God, these words, it seems is relevant because it was in this time that Thurman was really developing his image of Jesus as a dispossessed and oppressed Jewish man in relation to who he was, Thurman, as a dispossessed, oppressed black man. So here's the conversation as he lays it out in his book that you should go buy, Jesus and the Disinherited. He says, "We drank our coffee in silence. After the service had been removed, he said to me," this is the Hindu fella, "What are you doing over here? I know what the newspapers say about a pilgrimage of friendship and rest, but that is not my question. What are you doing over here?" He asked. "This is what I mean." He goes on, "More than 300 years ago, your forefathers were taken from the western coast of Africa as slaves. The people who dealt in slave traffic were Christians. One of your famous Christian hymn writers, Sir John Newton, made his money from the sale of slaves to the New World. He is the man who wrote How Sweet the Sound of Jesus and Amazing Grace. There may be others, but these are the only ones I know. The name of one of the famous British slave vessels was Jesus. The men who bought the slaves were Christians. Christian ministers, quoting the Christian apostle Paul, gave the sanction of religion to the system of slavery. Some 70 years or more ago, you were freed by a man who was not a professing Christian, but was rather the spearhead of certain political, social, and economic forces, the significance of which he himself did not understand. That's interesting. Goes on, during all the periods since then, you have lived in a Christian nation in which you are segregated, lynched, and burned. Even in the church, I understand there is segregation. One of my students who went to your country sent me a clipping telling about a Christian church in which the regular Sunday worship was interrupted so that many could join a mob against one of your fellows. When he had been caught and done to death, they came back to resume their worship of their Christian God." And he ends with this, "I'm a Hindu. I do not understand. Here you are in my country, standing deep within the Christian faith and tradition. I do not wish to seem rude to you, but sir, I think you are a traitor to all the darker people of the earth. I'm wondering what you, an intelligent man, can say in defense of your position." End quote. Ouch. Whew. Thurman tells us in that book that the conversation between these two went on for over 5 hours after, back and forth. And later, as he developed it, Thurman's driving force as a Christian, a black Christian, knowing full well the savagery that was laid out of white Christian history, was to, in his own words, this is how he explained it to the Hindu fellow, "I interpret Jesus as a religious subject rather than a religious object." Different. Interpret Jesus as a subject rather than a religious object. He is one of the earliest theologians, and theologian is a term he despised, by the way. He never referred to him as that. He's one of the earliest, I'm going to call him a theologian, to really reframe for American Christianity an image of Jesus not through the lens of white Christianity as a man to be worshipped, but he put him back in his context as a Jewish man living under the full and crushing weight of oppression. Jesus, for Thurman, could not be separated from his oppressive context that shaped him. That's what white Christians did, right? As a man living under oppression himself, he recognized fully the oppression of Jesus as well. And in what will become the hallmark of his vision of Christianity, Jesus was a man living with his back against the wall. A Jewish man dispossessed at every moment by the crushing weight of the Roman Empire. Yet he resisted, and he did not do so through violence, but rather through nonviolence. The same went for the African American community that Thurman was a part of and was speaking for. That's what he explained to his Hindu friend, that his community is one that is dispossessed, just like Jesus, the subject, not the object of worship. They had their backs against the wall, and so he saw their liberation tied directly to Jesus and to his context, not the white church that continued to confine Jesus in a box. So any expression, in other words, of who Jesus was and is has to begin with the marginalized, the oppressed, and the dispossessed, those whose backs are against the wall. And with that vision of Jesus, Thurman could remain wholeheartedly Christian and could use Jesus with his back against the wall to speak a word of hope to any group, anytime, who had their backs against the wall as well. He kind of created a universal image of Jesus then, as present whenever oppression was and is to be found. He brought to life Jesus' words that, as you just heard, indeed, he came to proclaim good news to the poor, to let the oppressed go free, to free the prisoners from the chains, to lift the burdens of those who were carrying the heaviest of burdens because of who they were and how they were oppressed. So he spent his whole life developing that vision of Jesus and Christianity. In the end, he left us the heartbeat of the civil rights movement. And he left us an image of Jesus who is not some white object to be worshiped, but a spiritual genius to be followed into all times of oppression. That is his answer to his Hindu critic. What an amazing man. But there's more. I didn't know this until this week. I'll just share with you one more thing about Howard Thurman, because I believe that is this in this story is where we are trying to get to. Faith UCC, with our own vision of openness and inclusion and the diversity that we just so long for. I see our future in this story. Thurman truly is 50 years ahead of where we are today. And as I think you'll see that in this story. And it all began in 1944, in a decade before he was to go on and inspire Martin Luther King Jr. This is before, a decade before, where he left Howard University and he moved to San Francisco. Just had enough, moved to San Francisco, and created what I teased earlier, that a place that for its time was amazing, and still today, it's going strong, and it's still kind of amazing that it exists today. And I have to admit, I just learned about it a couple days ago, and I'm kind of disturbed. I just learned about it a couple days ago. You see, for Thurman, God is universal. And particular religions are merely ways that we express our images and our understandings of God, often based on the particular cultures and places that we grow within. So with that idea central to him, this is where the mystic comes in. And Reverend Dr. Thurman and he partnered with Reverend Dr. Alfred Fisk in San Francisco, and Fisk is a white minister, 1944, and they decided to take a chance to build something new, something that almost everybody said just wasn't possible. It was impossible. And that is a spiritual community where all people could come and gather and share a spiritual experience together. When I say all people, I mean all people. Not just Christians, but all people. Not just white people, but all people. Not just black folks, but all people. So my voice is cracking. This place these two founded was and still is called, and let me know if you've heard of it, I think one or two of you have, the Church of the Fellowship of All Peoples. Who's heard of this? Anybody? Nobody. Wow. Nobody's heard of this church, and I count myself right along with you until just a couple days ago. The Church of the Fellowship of All Peoples, the nation's first intentionally interracial, interfaith spiritual community. According to their website, when they celebrated their recent 75th anniversary, I think it was in 2019, I think, in 1944, during World War II, when the world seemed to be on the verge of annihilating one another, Dr. Thurman, along with Dr. Alfred Fisk and other visionaries, acted on their belief that people of different races, nationalities, cultures, and faiths would find common ground by gathering for profound worship experiences over a sufficient time duration. The common ground would undercut all the socially imposed barriers that separate humanity. That was the genesis of our journey and continues to be the heart of our congregation. How cool is that? How cool is that? Wow. A spiritual community in which our common humanity and the divine spark that burns in each of us beyond the imposed categories, all the imposed categories that people put on us, that was built by Howard Thurman. Now, I was already a Thurman lover before I discovered this community, and I am more so now. So when you go home after you order the book, Jesus for the Disinherited, and then you watch Backs Against the Wall documentary, you need to go online and check out the Church of the Fellowship of All Peoples, for I will contend they are the future. And Howard Thurman created it for us 78 years ago. He was 100 years ahead of his time and 50 years ahead of where we are now. So I hope, my friends, as we celebrate Black history, that you've had a sense of just how special. You get a sense of how special Howard Thurman is and how much we owe to him. I'm glad you're now all familiar with him, and I encourage you again to go watch that documentary, Backs Against the Wall. You'll learn so much more than I can relay in this long sermon. In fact, maybe, just an idea, noble idea, maybe instead of watching the Super Bowl, a game from a league that talks all about ending racism, right? Yet that perpetuates it constantly. Oh, we're really getting in trouble now. Through the non-hiring of black coaches, for instance, through the way they treated a man who, like Rosa Parks, who took a seat for justice, he instead took a knee for justice. They drummed him out of the league. Maybe you should go watch that documentary instead of the Super Bowl. Or maybe you should watch it beforehand at least, okay, this afternoon. For Howard Thurman would still remind us, if he were to walk in here right now, he'd remind us that black men's and women's backs are still against the wall. And really, you look no further than the NFL to see that happening. So just keep that in mind today, of all days. But I hope that you're also inspired by his story to keep dreaming, my friends, to dream more dreams of inclusion and building the kind of the beloved community that he built out there in San Francisco, where all truly feel welcome, whatever their religion or their race or gender, orientation, or other ways that elements in our cultures use to divide wedges between us. And I think we are on that path, though, I do. And it may take towards becoming that kind of community. That's my dream. And it may take some more change in how we see ourselves as a community, maybe not so much as a church, but as a spiritual community. That's open to all sorts of expressions. It may take some letting go to get there, where Thurman already has been 50 years ago. It may take some letting go of some sacred cows in how we identify ourselves. And it may take some hard and honest conversations about who we are and where we want to go. But thanks to Howard Thurman and his story, I'm more confident than ever that we are on that path towards a new future. I really do. And he laid it out for us a long time ago. So we just need to heed his words and journey with his spirit to get to where we want to go in our future. I'm more confident that we're on that path. Let's let him be our guiding force. If we have a favorite theologian here, let it be Howard Thurman, because we need his words for the future. And I want to close with his words, as we open with his words. And these are good words for us to heed. Really good words. It's like he's just speaking to us. Listen to the long stillness. New life is stirring. New dreams are on the wing. New hopes are being readied. Humankind is fashioning a new heart. Humankind is forging a new mind. God is at work. This is the season of promise. Thank you, Howard Thurman, for all that you've given us. I hope you feel that you are a more round and filled out theologians that you are, spiritual thinkers that you are, for knowing what a great man we have in Howard Thurman. I say to you, my friends, happy, blessed Black History Month, and amen. great. Thank you to our amazing choir and leadership, musicians. I wonder if you'll join me in a little more time of some more intentional prayer and journey ever deeper into that Spirit of God that is in this place in our midst, and of course, that kindles in each of us. I pray these words of prayer by the great Maya Angelou. Father, Mother God, thank you for your presence during the hard and the mean days, for then we have you to lean on. Thank you for your presence during the bright and sunny days. Then we can share that which we have with those who have less. Thank you for your presence during the holy days. Then we are able to celebrate you and our families and our friends. For those who have no voice, we ask you to speak. For those who feel unworthy, we ask you to pour your love out in waterfalls of tenderness. For those who live in pain, we ask you to bathe them in the river of your healing. For those who are lonely, we ask you to keep them company. For those who are depressed, we ask you to shower upon them the light of hope. Dear Creator, you, the borderless sea of substance, we ask you to give to all the world that which we need most, peace. I wonder if you'll join me now in this beautiful interpretation of the Lord's Prayer. The words are on the screen. O cosmic birther of all radiance and vibration, soften the ground of our being within us, where your presence can abide. Fill us with your creativity, so that we may be empowered to bear fruit of your mission. Let each of our actions bear fruit in accordance with our desire. Endow us with the wisdom to produce and share what each of us needs to grow and flourish. Untie the tangled threads of destiny that bind us as we release others from the entanglement of past mistakes. Do not let us be seduced by that which would divert us from our true purpose, but illuminate the opportunities of the present moment. For you are this ground, and the fruitful vision, the birth, power, and fulfillment is all is gathered, made whole again. Amen. I love that version of that prayer. I think that was by Interfaith Power and Light, doing great environmental work. That was beautiful. Come to the conclusion of our worship service, my friends, and as always, I just want to say thank you for your incredible generosity and giving, for all that you give to this place. You are the most generous congregation. Quick reminder, please sign up. You got the Legacy group over here signing up. See, I know we're back when we get sign-up sheets going again. That's when we're coming out of the pandemic time.
Sign-up Sunday.
Sign-up Sunday is going every Sunday, and people are signing up for all. Thank you, Casey. Sign-up Sunday. People are signing up for all sorts of great stuff. We're coming back, you know. So sign up there. There's going to be a sign-up sheet for bringing Sloppy Joes and all sorts of other stuff on that board that Pam's going to, Chuck and Pam will have by them. So please do jot your name down there, and let's make March 27th a great day of celebrating. February 27th. Skipping it. Well, let's make March 27th a great day too. I mean, come on. But as always, so sign up for that stuff, and thank you for your continued generosity. So I always like to say, hey, you got a bunch of cash in your pockets and it's weighing your pants down. We have plates in the back where you can deposit some of that hard-earned cash to help us, all of us collectively, be the hands and feet of God and Christ in the world. So thank you. Before we sing our way, before we take our leave, and I do invite you back for Helen Telenko's service at 12:30. If you're interested in coming to celebrate a really great person who moved this choir in ways that we sometimes find hard to put into words. So especially when she got that tambourine in her hand. Oh my God, watch out. Before we do that, let's rise up in body or spirit and sing our way out of here, dance our way out of here. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with us. Go in peace, everyone. Love one another. Serve our God. Amen.